right, Chapter 4 test. So there are 45 questions on it. As always, they are going to be multiple choice and matching. Okay. The first couple of questions are going to be about examples of homeostasis. So you basically need to know what homeostasis is and what a good example of it is. So basically anything you change behaviorally or the ways your organs work or chemically that allows you to adapt to an external change. So if you start breathing faster because you're running away from a bad guy, that's homeostasis. If you start sweating because it's hot, that's homeostasis. If you start shivering because it's cold, that's homeostasis. If you're very thirsty, so you don't pee as much, that's homeostasis. If you drink a lot of water and you have to pee, that's homeostasis. Anything that makes your body maintain that stable internal environment is homeostasis, and that's the first couple of questions. Then you need to know the general idea of the egg experiment. So in other words, what was the egg a model for, and what were you supposed to take away from that experiment? Basically, that what can go into and out of cells through the membrane. In the egg experiment, what did you guys learn? What can go into and out of cells? In the egg experiment? Water. Water can move into and out of cells, right? And so if I put the egg in corn syrup, the egg gets smaller. If you put the egg in water, the egg gets bigger. And if you put the egg in vinegar, it stays about the same size. It gets a little bigger, but not much. All right. So the general idea of the egg experiment and the egg was used to represent what? A cell. Yeah. All right. So you need to know examples of qualitative data or evidence and quantitative data or evidence. Can't spell today. Quantitative. So you need to know the examples of qualitative and quantitative data. Just remember quantity. So quantity is data using numbers. And qualitative is data using descriptions or words. Descriptions or words. Good. And so you need to know the difference of them. Okay? And then you need to know the definition of osmosis. Yes, the movement of water from high to low concentration, or the diffusion of water. And then you need to define and examples of diffusion. And you need to know high-low. Okay? These look familiar? Okay, so you need to know how to do, you have 6 questions. And this is where some of you can make a mistake on it if you get them mixed up. 6 questions that are like the hyper, hypo, and isotonic worksheet, just like it. And they're going to be blank, so you're going to have to fill in the numbers. So they're going to be blank, so you have to put all the numbers in. Remember that inside you need 2 numbers. So if you have 30% water, you need to have the 70% salt or whatever it is, whatever the solute is. So you need to fill out all the numbers, the 2 numbers inside and the 2 numbers outside. Okay, speaking of them, you need to know hyper, hypo, and isotonic. Like if it shrinks, which is it? If it grows, which is it? If it stays the same, which is it? Hypo, hippo, bigger, right? Hyper, coffee makes me hyper and stunts my growth. Iso, isosceles triangle, 2 sides the same. Okay. You need to know what equilibrium is. You need to know what equilibrium is. Do you know what equilibrium? You look confused. You look scared. Are you scared about equilibrium? Did you forget what equilibrium is? That's okay. It was a long week. Yeah, it's just equilibrium, right? So it's when the inside and the outside are equal. That's it. equal concentrations inside and outside. And once you reach equilibrium, what happens to diffusion?
It stops.
It stops because there's no high anymore. There's no low, there's no high. It's equal. Diffusion stops.
Both the water and the solute are equal.
Yeah, inside on both sides. Yeah, equilibrium. It doesn't. It can be solute and solvent, or it can just be like a chemical. Like I dropped the stink bomb in the classroom. It starts off high concentration where the bomb went off. It's low concentration everywhere else in the room. Eventually, if I sealed off the room and no air can get in and out, eventually the room would be equally stinky, right? So then it's equilibrium. Diffusion stops. The particles don't stop moving, right? They're still moving in and out. It's just that there's so many particles that if one moves to higher concentration, the odds are somewhere else in the room one moves to lower concentration. So it's always constantly about equal. All right, equilibrium. Then you need to know about that that active transport problem that you had on the quiz. Remember the active transport problem where you had on the quiz where you had the fish egg, and the fish egg was 25% water inside and 70% water outside, right, or something along those lines. And which way should the water have gone? It should have gone inside, but then I said, and you have to be careful with the reading. I said that the egg didn't the egg didn't change size. So what must be happening is something must be moving the water back out. And what is that? That's active transport. Because it should be getting bigger, but it's staying the same size. So it must be active transport. It's going against the concentration gradient. It's doing something that it shouldn't be doing. Okay. Okay. Then you're going to have some diffusion. You're going to have some diffusion model problems like what you guys had with the stars. Remember where you had like a membrane like this, and then you had a bunch of like small stars, and then let's say you had like a bunch of big squares on this side. What's going to happen to the stars? They're going to move which way? They're going to move to the left, right? The stars are going to move to the left. And what's going to happen to the boxes? This is tricky. They're going to stay. Why are they going to stay?
Because they can't fit.
They can't fit through the holes. So you're going to have something along those lines there. Then you're going to have the the three types of membrane transport. So you're going to need to know those diagrams. Remember you had the cell membrane, right? And then you have high concentration to low concentration, and that's what type of transport is that just by itself? Two answers are acceptable here.
Passive.
It's passive is one of them. Yep, this is passive. Is passive transport, and what's the other right answer for this one?
Diffusion.
Diffusion. Thank you, Jackson. Yes, and diffusion. So this is both passive transport and diffusion. Because it's going high to low, it's passive transport. It doesn't require energy. And it's simple diffusion because there's no protein to help it. And then you have the second type where it's going from high to low, but there's a channel protein. Right? That's facilitated diffusion. Remember, facilitate means to make easier. Facile, easy. Facilitated means to make easier. So that is also passive transport. Both of these are passive transport. Why? What don't they require when somebody's passive? They don't require energy. And so high to low, no energy, passive transport. But this is facilitated diffusion because it's being helped. And then the last type, you have the protein pump. And you need energy. And you go from low to high, so you're going against the concentration gradient. You got these two right. Diffusion, facilitated diffusion, both of those are passive transport. With this one, there's only one right answer. What are we missing? Active. And remember, active, right there. Energy. Active energy. Yeah, ATP, it's not going to say ATP on this one. We're not going to try to get you there. All right, and then so that takes us almost halfway through the test, or over halfway through the test, rather. You need to know the difference between selectively permeable permeable and impermeable, right? Selectively permeable means what type of things can go through? Selective things. So some things go through. Permeable means all things go through. Impermeable means nothing. So a selectively permeable membrane is permeable to some things, impermeable to other things. Right? And then, so there's some more about the passive-active transport stuff, passive-active transport stuff. Examples of diffusion, we already talked about that. Examples of equilibrium. More hypotonic stuff. You need to know what the cell membrane does for us. Why do we have cell membranes? A couple of you look panicked here. It's simple. Why do we have cell membranes? What did we just talk about? Right. Cell membranes are selectively permeable. So why do we have cell membranes? Well, to keep bad things out of our cells and to keep good things in our cells. To make sure only the good things go in, the bad things come out. To selectively pick and choose what things can get into and out of you so that you can maintain homeostasis. Compartments. Examples of them. So what do we call compartments in multicellular organisms? Organs and compartments in the cells? Organelles. All right. You need to know what stress is, generally speaking, not necessarily specifically like when you feel anxious about something, but generally speaking. Stress is something that changes in the external environment that your body has to respond to. So technically, going from a dark room to a lit room is a stress for your body, right? Because your body has to react to that new lit room. Your body has to change what it's doing in order to adapt to the change in the external environment. Yeah, when you watch a movie and you have a lot of light coming out of the screen and you feel that little pain in your eyes for a couple seconds while your pupils and your muscles change and the eye changes shape and everything to filter out that extra light, yeah, that's your body under stress. Remember that Josh was under stress specifically because he was working too hard and he wasn't drinking enough water and he drank caffeine, which made him pee. Okay. Dialysis bag. You need to know the dialysis bag. What could go through the bag and what couldn't go through the bag? It's a tube, yeah.
Starch, iodine could go through.
Iodine could go through? Iodine could go through, yes. It was permeable to iodine.
And then, but for glucose, it couldn't.
Other way. Glucose could go through because glucose is simple sugar. And starch could not go through. Starch could not go through. It was too big. You need to know that starch plus iodine gives what color? Purple or dark. Yep. Okay. You need to know the blood vessels. All right. The main thing you need to know about the blood vessels are the capillaries. What happens in the capillaries? They connect the veins and arteries, but they also what happens at the vein where the veins turn into arteries. Here's a hint. You have capillaries at your intestines. You have capillaries in your lungs. You have capillaries at all of your body tissues. What is happening at your lungs? What is happening at your intestines? What is happening at your body tissues? Yeah. It's a general statement. You probably know it, and you're probably going to kick yourself when you realize what the answer is. Why would your intestines, and there's capillaries in the kidneys. What's happening at what do the kidneys, the intestines, the body, and the lungs all have in common when they tie into the circulatory system? What are they doing at those points? Not pumping blood. What happens in the lungs? Where the oxygen goes in, carbon dioxide goes out. What happens at the capillaries and the intestines?
Oxygenated blood comes in.
No.
No,
What comes into the blood at the intestines? Nutrients. What goes into the kidneys at the capillaries and the kidneys?
protein.
Water.
Waste and water. Yeah. So capillaries. Okay. Capillaries are super small blood vessels. We did talk about this before you left. Capillaries are super small blood vessels. They're about the size of one cell thick. And so because they're only one cell thick, this is where the stuff gets into and out of the blood. So capillaries, this is where things go into and out of the blood. That's it. Okay, what happens if you're dehydrated? You drink water. What else happens? What happens at your kidneys?
They stop.
Yep, they slow down. They don't make as much pee. Right? What happens if you drink too much water at your kidneys? You pee more. Good. Why should you not drink caffeine when you're dehydrated?
Because it makes you
It makes you pee. It's a diuretic. It makes you pee. Caffeine makes you pee. Caffeine is a diuretic. All right. And then you need to know what goes into and out of the blood at various places. So what goes in, out of blood at the lungs, right? You need to know what goes into and out of the blood at the lungs, at the kidneys, at the intestines, at the body cells, and that's it. And that's 45 questions.
For the lungs, is it oxygen and then carbon dioxide?
At lungs is O2 in, CO2 out.
And then digestive system, water and. Oh wait, that's
Kidneys is what? Waste out. Water and waste out. Water's not an option, so we'll just go waste. Intestines.
wait, that's not right.
I'll give you a hint. Only something goes in. Nothing comes out at the intestines. Yeah, nutrients, food. And then the body cells.
nutrients and oxygen.
Oxygen and
Yep, food and oxygen go in. And what comes out?
carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide and?
Fat.
No, fat is good for you. You need fat. Fat is a good thing. We have 3 out of the 4 things that are going into or out of the body here.
Water.
What else comes out of the cells? Waste. Okay. Like I said, this is, you need to practice with it. So, and I know some of you, I got emails over the weekend. Some of you did have some of the questions on the study guide. So I'm going to stop this here and we'll go over the questions, specific questions you have in the study guide.